Welcome back, Pirate Crew. It's your captain, Yeehaw Yadam, and for today's video, we got something a little bit different. Something I did for Zoro in the original set. I'm going to try to emulate it with Law in the second set. So for the past month in our competitive IRL games, I have been taking Law to locals, and I've had a pretty good amount of success. I think I've topped or won every single local I've played Law in, which is a testament to the deck. Being a 4-lifer in a format as aggressive as this is really, really surprising. Not only that, the amount of variety play style you can have with Law and the many different forms of combos you can have is very, very exciting. What I have here in this little section of the video is what I would consider the backbone of a Law deck, right? The numbers, at least up to here, are all what I think they should be. They could be increased or decreased ever so slightly. But I wanted to show you this because this is probably shows how rigid the Law deck really is. This is 42 cards from the main deck. 42 cards from the main deck are, in my opinion, very unmalleable. This is the core of the deck, and the next 8 cards really comes up to you and can just show your personal preference as a player. And I will show you the build that I ended up using in the later on in the video, but this is kind of like what I would say is the backbone of Law in set 2. In set 1, Law was trying to do many things, but this list right here was popularized by an Eastern player. He's a Japanese player who I'm not going to even try to pronounce his name because I don't want to mispronounce it, but I will leave a description. I will leave a link to his channel in the description because he has been putting out content. Now, the content is in Japanese, which, you know, I don't speak Japanese, but I can understand his gameplay, and he is an exceptionally knowledgeable player who is showing some really top level stuff from Law and from One Piece in general. So definitely go check him out. Amazing content. But back to this, the Law deck. And I want to show you this backbone real quick because on this backbone we have a 16 Supernova, 14 Straw Hat split with specifically a curve of 22 1-drops. Now, Law has, you know, again, popularized by this player from Japan, has become a deck where you want to flood early and then flip into your very powerful green top end, right? As you can see here, our top end to this deck, which doesn't really exist, is Law, X-Drake, and then other cards if you so want them to. But it's basically 6k. Your deck caps at 6k, which isn't terrible, but makes it so that your Whitebeard matchup is kind of tough, right? Not only that, let's try to see exactly what we have here in front of us. We have 2 specific searchers, some of the best searchers in the game. We've got Nami and we've got Jewelry Bonnie, literally back to back in the same deck. Jewelry Bonnie being a pseudo infinite searcher that if as long as she stays on the board, by paying 1 Dawn, I can find any supernova in my deck. But what are those supernovas that Bonnie is finding? Well, Bonnie is finding specifically Beji, just another 1-drop blocker. You're not really happy to see Beji, but you're also not sad to see Beji. You're also looking for X-Drake, a powerful top-end late-game card, a Trafalgar Law Restander from the Structure deck, which is a finisher card, that's another 6k, and the best card in the deck, Trafalgar Law from OP01 character card. So Bonnie is looking for your late game, as well as it can find Jet Pistol. Jet Pistol is a Straw Hat Supernova, and Bonnie isn't limited to color, nor is Nami, so therefore she can also find this. But what is Nami searching? So if Bonnie is finding your top end, what is Nami finding you? Well, Nami's finding you specifically Tony Chopper, Brook, and Jet Pistol. In this specific variation, right? We'll talk more about what other inclusions come into the Law deck and why Nami becomes so important. But if you look at it from that specific point of view, Nami is specifically looking for the defensive options in your deck. Not only are you finding your choppers, you're finding your Jet Pistol, which is an offensive defensive card, as well as the fact that she's finding your 2k counter that is a Brook, a free 2k counter in this deck. And I say free in quotations because the fact that you can play it for 2 and then it nets you the 2 Dawn that you played it to get to the 5 board limit from his on play effect, or, you know, when he is summoned effect, which is very interesting when you look at it from that end. Then we have these Otama Makino engine, which are very powerful 2ks. Makino and Otama being unironically some of the best 2ks in the game. I'm not necessarily sure which one is better. They're both incredible at what they do, and the fact that Curly Dodon makes it so that we can find them, the Chopper and the Nami, just increases the consistency of the deck. Now, Law didn't really get much in set 2. We basically got Curly Dodon as well as the Vista, but with the addition of both of these cards, the deck has skyrocketed in consistency and has become the aggressor. We went from trying to protect our life, standing behind the 8-drop kid and trying to outvalue you, to beating you with 7, 7, 7, 7, swinging you with 7 as many times as physically possible until the game ends. So with this backbone being said, let's talk about some of the what if cards, some of the possible inclusions that you can expect to see, in my opinion, in a Law deck. Starting off with this Monkey D. Luffy, he is a Supernova Straw Hat. So he's a dual searchable card. He basically has the suction of himself. He's a 2-cost 1k counter. So like everything on him is fine on paper. He can make himself a 5k, which helps you deal with aggressive board states. He's a card that if your opponent jet pistols or if they Vista, you don't feel terrible. But at the same time, that is kind of his downfall. The fact that he is a 3k and is immediately Vistable, immediately Nickel Robin, puts him in a really weird spot. With red being so prevalent in the meta, Nickel Robin and Vista almost always at very high counts in both Whitebeard and what seems to be Zoro and or Luffy, makes it so that this card is a little bit undesirable. The fact that it is a Supernova Straw Hat, again, adds more consistency to your deck. He is a 1k counter at the worst. And as well, he has this weird strike effect, but there aren't really any strike characters that you should really care about. If this Nickel Robin, for example, is a strike character, but she would also just KO it by her effect. So it basically mitigates that ability that the card pseudo has. Then there's also this 2k counter Luffy. This Luffy allows you to swing for 7k, and then win Law, you can not feel too terrible about it, right? So you can summon the Luffy, go Brook, put it on the Luffy, swing for 7, trigger the effect of Law to bounce the Luffy to play a Law, to activate the Law's effect to bounce the Brook to play a insert card here. And then that was not a bad turn. But at the same time, and again, this Luffy is also Supernova Straw Hat. It is a little slower than your other plays on 3, as well as the additional cards that I'm going to explain here. We have the Nickel Robin that is a very powerful on 3 curve. We've got the Zoro, Rush Zoro, and we also have starter deck Zoro. If you look at the list from the Japanese individual that was that's just been crushing it in the East with this deck, he has run some amount of the Rono Zoro, and the tournament where he won the Invitational, he was playing this Zoro in his list. Now this Zoro, once again, all of these cards are basically Supernova Straw Hats, with, the exception of Nickel Robin right here, these 4 cards. So they're dual searchable, adds consistency, and they all do something pretty much the same. Issue with these 2 cards, they're very easy to KO on the crackback. As you've noticed, Zoro, they swing at you with a bunch of 5k attackers, but then when it's your turn, you can easily clear the board, as their board is literally a bunch of weenies. And that's kind of what Law doesn't want to do. But Law can kind of mitigate that by using his Shambles effect with the Law character card to restand almost his entire board. But if you're doing that, you're not really always putting on the pressure. And that's why these Zoros kind of became the 3 cost slot. Now, this Zoro allows you to contest boards very quickly. You can just play it out and try to use it as a removal spell. And if they're attacking the Zoro, you can defend it, or you can feel okay at that I'm attacking it, because it works as a pseudo blocker. The fact that you're a 4-lifer, you kind of have to play a little bit more conservative, and them attacking your characters feels better than them KOing them by effect. This Zoro kind of does the job best, because this Zoro is a 6k on your opponent's turn. For the low price of 2 Dawn, he becomes a for the low price of 1 Dawn, he becomes a 7k attacker. For 2 Dawn, he becomes 8k that contests the Whitebeard, and it can also be restood by the structure deck Law, which makes it a very powerful card. It really is personal preference. I haven't really tried much of the structure deck Zoro because I've just noticed myself wanting that rush aspect. I use this Zoro more as a removal tool, a finisher, rather than just kind of like trying to tempo my opponent on the first couple turns. There's also the Roanoa Zoro from OPO2. OPO2 gave you a vanilla Zoro a character, which is a 6k attack character for the cost of 4. That is its biggest downfall. He's a 1k counter, but it is Supernova, Straw Hat, and Film. So again, dual searchable green, so you can flip your little weenies into him, but it is a 4-drop. You cannot use the entire ability of Law to just restand and summon it back, as you can with these 3-costed cards right here, which kind of makes it a little bit weaker. The fact that it is a green is a huge plus side, because once again, the base of the deck, or the cards that you are going to be playing more than any other card, are the red cards. Oftentimes your board is just a bunch of red, and then all of a sudden you start shambling into your green, which feels really, really nice. This Monkey D. Luffy has really fallen out of favor because he is a 5-costed red card. The only real cards you're going to be switching him out for is the Bonnie or the Beji, which there are better ways to go about it, but he's definitely an option that could be in the deck. Eustace Captain Kidd, again, you're a 4-lifer, he's an 8-drop. He creates the boss monster aspect that the deck kind of desperately wants to have, but at the same time, he's only Supernova, so only Bonnie will search him. More often than not, if you're playing Dodon, Nami, and you're just playing those cards often, you're going to end up bottom decking a Eustace Captain Kidd, or if you do get a Bonnie search, would you pick up the Eustace over the Law character card? Really, really tough, and it's honestly difficult to say. Interesting that this card fell out of favor in most decks, and it's just a little bit crazy to me, but insane. Then there's also Radical Beam. Radical Beam is a Straw Hat specific card, but the fact that you're a 4-lifer lets you get to the threshold really easy, and a 1-cost 4K counter, exceptional. I think we all know how absolutely unbalanced this card is thanks to Whitebeard, but Law can very much use it to their advantage as well as Gum Gum Redhawk. Now the effect on Gum Gum Redhawk is almost entirely negligible, but what is truly important of Redhawk is the fact that it is, again, Supernova Straw Hat. So once you start seeing all those things together, you kind of get to, and this is the version that I was playing in the upcoming games, the version that I was playing this week. Now, I've made a bunch of different iterations to the deck, and for this point in time, this is the deck that I took to locals. Funnily enough, I do not have a third of the structure deck Law, but if I did, I would certainly make this choice really easily, and honestly, this Zoro isn't performing just as much as I wanted him to, but we'll keep it at the list for now. My thought process on the list, as you can see on the right side of the screen, look at the types. We have 23 Supernova, 22 Straw Hat, and then if you look at the count of the characters, we have got exactly 24 1-drops. If you remove 7 from 24, we have 17 1-drop, which is the magic number that we want to hit for when we want to hit a search. What I wanted to do more than anything is not whiff. It feels terrible when I go Nami and I bottom deck cards. Sure, I can stack them, and this deck more than any deck can get to that bottom easier, but the fact that I lose the ability to replace a card from my hand by playing a card is kind of what this deck wants to do. It just wants to play cards, add a card, so I'm never dropping hand advantage and then swapping my little weenies for big cards and then replaying my weenies to find me more cards and then eventually tempo you out of the game. What I noticed was when I was playing other lists of Law is that I was whiffing a lot. Dodon would whiff and bottom deck almost all the time. Nami wouldn't be finding me cards that I truly cared about, and the best card in my deck was Jewelry Bonnie, but if you play Bonnie early, if you tap it, it dies. If you don't tap it, it gets Vista'd, and I was just in an upset spot. So after some deck iteration, this is the version that I've specifically enjoyed. I've had a lot of success and fun with, but definitely that doesn't mean that this is the Law list to play or the Law list that you might expect at your locals. Now, there's a bunch of cards here that are just not malleable. The 4 Otama, triple Makino, 4 Tony Choppers. You can't argue these cards. They just have to be in those numbers. And the reason why Tony Chopper has the bonus instead of Veggie is because Chopper is red. That's basically it. You want the red to turn into the big. The green doesn't really turn into anything in this deck except a Zoro. And at that point, there's no point in shambling because I'm not netting any advantage. I'm paying 1, 2, 3 with my leader to get a 3, and that just ain't it, chief. Then I've got obviously the 4 Bonnie, 4 Nami. I'm playing Sunny Kun as an additional 1-drop that is searchable by Nami and Dodon, right? So increasing my Straw Hat count so that Nami won't whiff, increasing my 1-drop so that my Dodon won't hit. I've got obviously 4 Dodon, 4 Brook. I ended up going with triple Vista, 2 of the Rush Zoro, and then this as my weird little top end. Now this X-Drake is a card that I haven't really truly enjoyed playing it, but the card really hoses green. I don't think I've lost a single Kinemon matchup, but that's not to say that it's an unlosable matchup. If Odin comes down at the right time, if you don't have the right amount of pressure on them, you can easily fold to that matchup. If they have if they go Okiku, Yamato, turn Odin, yeah, that doesn't feel good for any deck, even for this Law deck. So at that, even though I've had good success versus Kinemon, that is not to say that you shouldn't fear that matchup. I've just noticed that cards like this Sunny Kun and this X-Drake, which do contest early and are additions to the deck to make the matchup better, aren't necessarily wanted, but I do understand why people go heavy on the X-Drake as it is a very, very powerful card. Again, if I had more of this Law, I would play it. This card is absolutely banana broken. Loved him. Every time I see him, he's so good, and it's kind of weird to see him because he was so out of favor in the original set. I do play 2 of the Gum Redhawks as I just want that Supernova Straw Hat synergy, and I do again play only 2 Jet Pistols. The only reason I play 2 Jet Pistols is because Jet Pistol doesn't feel as good as it did in the first format. Again, crazy. It is a fantastic removal option. I've been getting literally crucified in almost all of my videos where I say Jet Pistol is okay. Everyone likes to play it at 4. I get it. At 4, you'll see it in life more often. In this deck, I don't want to see it in my life. I want to see character cards so that I can flood and do stuff. But the more important thing is that I want to use this Jet Pistol as a combo option with the Otama in a very bizarre manner. Now, Law, more than any deck, can play your Otama. You can play your Machinos and not feel bad about it, because you are going to add them right back to your hand immediately. What's really cool about this deck is that you can go Otama, Shamble it to play Law, bounce something else, play Otama again, and now you have Otama for negative 4k power, which allows you to Jet Pistol even 10ks. Just think about it. Whitebeard, he's gone. Now, that is a hefty turn, right? You're playing 1, 2, 3, 7 Dawn for that, but I will take 7 Dawn to clear that big dingus off the board, and then try to get some tempo back off of that. But the Jet Pistol, oftentimes you don't necessarily want to search it off your Nami or your Bonnie, but it's just there as a possible removal option. And this deck cycles so heavily with literally 12 specific searchers that you can get to the bottom of your deck very, very quickly. So without further ado, guys, let's get right into some games. All right, so for our first game, we have got Law versus Zoro. So this was part of our locals, our live locals at Pro Play Games. I was put on stream, so I didn't record it off my own phone. So we have our little screen replay here that we're going to go ahead and use. So you're going to see 2 of me. Don't be afraid. We got it. I do end up choosing to go first. And now I'm not necessarily sure if that is correct. My theory with Law is that I can go first or I can go second. If I do go first, and I open optimally, I can Shambles on my 3rd turn. I can one drop Shambles, right? Or I can whiff a 1-drop there, or play maybe a 2-drop in one of those turns. 1-drop, 2-drop, 1-drop, 1-drop, 1-drop Shambles. That's another way you can do it, right? So going first doesn't feel terrible. Going second doesn't feel terrible with this deck either. Most of the time, I'm trying to choose the more optimal or the least optimal turn order for my opponent, right? So if I know I'm playing at Zoro, I do think Zoro is better on the odd curve, I will make them go evens. If I go up against Kinemon, I know they're better on evens, I will put them on odds, and so on and so forth. But that's really my mentality on Law. I think it's, again, very versatile deck. It doesn't matter if I go first or second. I don't know if there's any net advantage. Maybe in the mirror matches or aggressive matchups, you would like to go second for an extra card, but I'm not sure if that's the exact right thing to do. So let's get right to the game. Zoro, a terrifying matchup. Being a 4-lifer versus a deck that's just this aggressive is very, very scary. So we have to mulligan very aggressively for some sort of starters like this Nami, and Nami finding Chopper there is excellent, right? I do want to just annoy them with the amount of Choppers. Now the deck has Vista and other terribly annoying cards, but Chopper will hose them to some extent. He's going to go ahead and play the Sunicune and the Makino, which is a great turn 1 from him, but losing a 2k, I'm down. I'm going to go swing 5 before I go ahead and I play a card onto the board. Now I play a Zoro here because my hand isn't really looking great. Now he even asked me, why aren't you attacking with that card? Well, if I attack with it, you just Makino into it. You just literally destroy my entire hand, and then if you still have the out to it, I lose the game. So I don't want to put myself in that position, but I want to just create a threat on the board. Being a 5k body, big. So my opponent takes some time here to think about what he wants to go ahead and do. And I think he'll attack 5 with lead. And again, I don't want to defend early. I can take 1 or 2, even 3 lives, but I don't want to go further than that. Now he plays Otama Vista, which is it's very powerful, but in the Zoro deck specifically, doesn't feel too crazy because he just dropped double 2Ks are on the board, and a Vista is not as good for him as it may seem. I go ahead and go Curly Dawn to get my own Sunicune. I will probably end up playing the Sunicune, and then I'm deciding what I want to do with this last 2 down. I think I probably could bluff a Red Hawk, or I may have a Red Hawk at this point in time. I don't necessarily remember. Or I can just play a double 1-drop. The reason I don't want to play a double 1-drop here is because I'm afraid that my opponent can just have, again, more Vistas, Jet Pistols, things along those lines. But I can't just be that passive. I can't just float 2 Dawn like that. So I just go double Chopper pass, which is a pretty solid turn for me. He's down to 3, I'm down to 3, and I've got 5 characters on the board that can fight his board. I'm kind of down, but I only got 4 cards in hand. I think my opponent at this point in time has 7, and that's just the crazy part about Zoro. They just feel like they always have so many cards. So I think he's going to take some time here to think about his turn. And I'm in a very spooky spot. Being, 3 life with those specific cards on the board, I can be at 0 life at the end of this turn if he has a couple rushers in hand. So let's see how he decides to allocate his Dawn. He takes some time here to think, which I can't blame him. The board is kind of spooky. He goes and puts one on the Vista, swings with the Vista for 5k. Now, I think all of the cards in my hand are 2k, so it feels very bad to block them, and losing Makino that I can use on the Sunicune feels even worse. Now I go ahead and I think he hits into a Jet Pistol there, and I'm not going to Jet Pistol any of the cards that he has on board. I'm going to use my turn to try and clear his board, use my characters and my weenies to really get in there, and then he Vistas again. Again, he's kind of had the nuts, but we have to do our best with what we've got. And I think he ends up floating a Dawn here, but we kind of have a pretty solid amount of cards to play. No, he doesn't float a Dawn. He sacks the Makino to play a Nami, and then the aggression keeps coming. You can see the tilt in my face. I'm just like, oh. So it goes back to my turn here, and I'm thinking about how I want to do it. I'll go 5 at the Vista. Again, I need to clear his board. I don't really care about giving him more cards in hand. I don't need to pressure his hand, or I don't think I need to. I'm going to Otama, swing Dawn in. Didn't want to swing the Nami, right? Because I don't want to have my very powerful searcher cards rested. I think Nami, I just valued a little bit higher than Dawn. So I'm going to go ahead, Shambles, use Law's ability to add back the Bonnie effect to summon the Beji. And then I still have 4 Dawn left. I've allocated everything. I know I can Jet Pistol this turn after doing all of this. So I'm not going to float 4 Dawn or put 4 Dawn on the Nami. Seems terrible. So I'm going to just Jet Pistol here, and I'm deciding whether I want to Jet Pistol the Vista or Jet Pistol the Nami. Now, I think Nami, funnily enough, is probably the better. Like, there's something to be said about if I pistol the Vista, then he requires him to have like a Magura or a Makino in hand to pump the Nami. But if he does, that is much more threatening than the Vista. So I wanted to take the Nami out, give myself some space from the possible aggression that my opponent has, but just imagine our day and age in 2023 when I'm Jet Pistoling a Nami. Bananas. So again, back to my opponent's turn, and that wasn't the cleanest turn from us, but it's gonna have to do. Puts a Dawn under his Zoro, the classic, and he did have the Magura, which he's using on the Otama. And I could have defended this with the Law. I do have other blockers to defend that, and I guess that would make me Jet Pistol proof because I would have already blocked my 6k, but it just didn't seem necessary. I also just, Law kind of wants their board to clear a little every turn. They want to go to 3 or to 4 just so that their turn they can go play a card, Shamble, play a card, Shamble, and so on and so forth. So I was okay with the Dawn loss there, and the Otama can stay there for the rest of the game. I am not swinging at that card. He's going to have to sack it himself. And then my opponent takes some time here to think, looking at the board state and then how much Dawn he wants to allocate. And I think this was like a mistake from both of us. My opponent here says 5k to lead, and I'm like, 5k to lead? Are you sure? Because I'm like trying to count the Dawn. I must have I feel like I looked away. I didn't know how much Dawn was under it, and then say he stacked it like that. It was a little weird. So he reassured me 5k to lead, and I blocked with a Law. I would have blocked this attack either way and then pitched a card, but I'm definitely going to take this hit as I still have the double blocker. This is going to fetch a blocker for sure, or a 2k from hand. I'm not necessarily sure I can afford to remove a 2k, so I go ahead and remove the Beji. Again, choosing the red over the green so that I can Shambles into the green. So Nami will clear this Otama. I guess I lied about caring about the Otama. It's just a free, like, Nami has to turn sideways here, I guess. I'm going to go ahead and Bonnie. I am very fortunate, I think, in this Bonnie to find another Law. The more of these Laws I see, the better, baby. So I find another Law, which is exceptional, and then I'm trying to find out how I want to finish off my turn here. I have Otama in hand. I end up opting not to go for the Law, but for X-Drake instead, which is not bad. Just shows just how powerful X-Drake is. So I'm going to go Vista here. Pretty sure I top decked this Vista, which felt really, really nice. Going to go ahead and Vista the Magura. Then I'm probably going to go ahead and Shamble here. Haven't used his effect yet. Shamble the Nami away. And then Nami's going to go ahead and summon the X-Drake. X-Drake's going to take care of the Zoro, which is really, really solid. I do leave a Bonnie sideways, which normally is not great, but in this matchup, I feel it's fantastic, as if he really wants to take this Bonnie down, he's going to now have to commit an attack, and an attack to the Bonnie is not an attack to me. Amen. I again float to Dawn here because I do play the Red Hawk. I don't think I ever drew Red Hawk this game, but if I did, that would have been awesome. That'd be much more safe. So my opponent's at 3 life. I've got 2 6Ks on the board. It's not looking terrible for us. Their board is entirely clear, but I think their hand is kind of thick at this point in time. And this is just the absolute horror that is Zoro. We'll see it right now as the Dawn adds Nami. Nami is going to go ahead and add insert card here. Let's see what she decides to add. I think the worst possible option is 5-drop Luffy. It is a Nico Robin, which isn't great because now my Chopper is threatened, and I love my little choppy boy. But he goes 1 card into 1 card into 1 card. So for the nice cost of Dawn, he's got 3 cards on the board that are now unrested, and it's going to be very, very difficult for me to deal with. He goes 5 at my Bonnie, which I just had to count how much Dawn he has left. I'm going to take this block because it's just free, and I think that was just a pretty big mistake. Again, even though he was attacking Bonnie, he could have had a Zoro there if he wanted to, but I didn't have the Chopper for the Zoro, so I didn't feel bad about it. I'm going to go ahead and use Bonnie here, and this is what I'm talking about, an Infinite Searcher. If she gets to live, gaming, and she finds me the Law, I will certainly not see another Law this game. So this is going to be my last one, and I'm going to have to make it count. I'm going to go ahead and put 1 Dawn on each of my 6Ks, again, making them jet pistol proof. Very, very important. Because if I do lose this Law, I lose the game, and that's not good. I'm going to go ahead and swing 5 at lead just to see how he reacts to this 5. Then again, my cards are just broken. So he takes. No, I'm just kidding. But I have to think about how I want to go ahead and simplify this turn. Going to go ahead and Otama on top of the Bonnie, targeting the Nico Robin. Then I'm going to go ahead and put 2 Dawn on the Vista, swing for 5. Does he take? Does he take this hit? And it's honestly terrifying if he takes it. I still have 4 Dawn open. If I go 4 Dawn on this Law right now, making him an 11k swing for game, there's a high possibility I win. But the fact that he has 4 Dawn available, if he just has a Radical Beam and a guard point, I'm cooked. So I don't want to take that risk. I'll take the guaranteed win over the course of 2 turns. I'm going to Shambles the Vista to bounce the Otama, to play the Vista to KO the Nico Robin, and that's just a very clean turn. Again, I'm going to float another 2 Dawn, baby. The whole game I'm floating. I lied. I wasn't floating anything, but I could have floated 2 Dawn. I was just saying, if I play this Chopper down, I'm pretty sure I'm guaranteed to win on the following turn because I've got 3 6Ks on the board plus my leader in 10 Dawn. He's at 0 life. There's just no way. I did lose a Vista for that, which is kind of scary. I don't know if I have another Vista in hand, but I don't want to lose the Vista just because if he plays a blocker here like a Chopper, I could have like Shamble, played the Vista, and then removed it like that. So let's see how my opponent wants to proceed with his turn. This is most definitely the final turn of the game for him. Or myself, depending on what he's got. The scariest card, and the card I just do not play around as much as I should, is the 5-drop Luffy. The fact that he becomes an unblockable Luffy is something you have to be very cognizant of when you're playing this deck. Not only does can the Zoro deck play it, the Luffy deck for sure plays it, and Strawbeard most certainly plays it. So you got to play around that card and just kind of think about what damage that card can do to you. So I have 4 in hand. He goes 6, and 6 is just not real. So I'm going to go ahead and 2k out of that. He goes 6 again. I'll just block with a Chopper. Block while I still can, right? I'm going to preserve the cards in my hand. Speaking of the devil, there goes the Luffy. But with 1 Dawn active, there's no possible way that he can attack me again, and I do have the Chopper. So it goes back to my turn, and then I just have a very troll time winning the game. I go 5 at lead. He doesn't have any jet pistols that can trigger in life, so I'll just 5, 7. So remove a card, remove 2 cards. He did have a Vista. Remove another 2 cards. And then at this point in time, I think my opponent is left with only 1 card in hand. So I go 6 to remove that 1 card in hand, and then I just put everything on Chopper and I win the game. So nice little finish there. Got a little Chopper kill on cam. You love to see it. But that is a very terrifying matchup. Just fortunate that we were able to win it on the long run. The next game, I do promise, will be not as clean as this one, but let's get right to it. And we're back with game 2. So in this game, we're facing off a leader that is very underrepresented for how absolutely broken he is. Don Quixote do Flamenco. Now, Don Quixote do Flamenco using the 7 Warlords engine is a super powerful deck because not only can it put a lot of aggression, it creates board states at the same time, which are very, very threatening. We opt to go first because I do not want to put Flamingo on first. If they do open Perona into then Flamingo turn, into then Flamingo turn plus card, we're in a really bad spot. So I want to put them on evens. I win the die roll again. God, I'm good at rolling dice. and I opt to go first, which my opponent, I think we were talking throughout the whole match, a very fun match and a really cool guy to play against. He said that that was possibly correct. So I start off not the hottest start, but I'm okay with playing a Beji at this point in time. Now we got a little shaky cam, goes off to my opponent, and my opponent has a pretty weak start of passing. I'm going to go ahead and swing here. I even say as a troll, overheat my Beji, and he does overheat the Beji. So as you can see there, we're just having a good old time. Go ahead and play the Dodon. The Dodon's going to find me an Otama, and then I'm going to just replay the Beji and pass it right back to the Flamingo. So Flamingo now at 4 Dawn. 4 Dawn is a turn where they can play basically any of their 7 Warlords, this being one of them, but this one is on an off curve, right? So this one is super off because not only is he a 3 cost, it would only keep up 1 Dawn for a Spada. So he's probably, his best bet is to either use it offensively by putting a Dawn on his Flamingo, which he just saw me at Otama, or playing a Law blocker, which not a lot of people play as much as you may think. So he opts to go for the 6k, and I was going to take the hit no matter what. And I go down to 3 life. Back to my turn. I'm at 5 Dawn here, and my start hasn't been great. I don't think I have a designated searcher at this point in time. So I'm just going to classically just 5k life. He can take a block here. He can go ahead and pitch cards, or he can just take it. Taking it is absolutely fine. Flamingo definitely wants to take life when they get a chance, and I'll just go ahead and vomit cards onto the board. I'll play a Law, and Law's going to bounce my Dodon, and Dodon is going to probably come down. And she's going to go ahead and look at the top of my deck. I decide not to go for the Dawn and say, you know what? I'm going in. So 5-5. I do have to apply some pressure to the Flamingo because the more time I give them, the more time that they have to get to their Mihawks. And that is a card that I'm going to have a lot of difficulty beating in the late game. So back to my opponent's turn. He still has his 4k blocker, his leader swing. But now that he's stacked his deck, most certainly he's going to go ahead and use his leader's ability. He's going to stack it for a Teach. Teach is going to come down and bounce my Chopper, Sag, but I will just sacrifice the Beji in its place. Let's see what he opts to do from here. He still has 3 Dawn available to him at this point in time. And my whole game plan, I think I played these first couple of turns exceptionally. He swings for 5k. I'm going to take the free block there all day. And then it goes back to my turn. I'm deciding how I want to start my turn. I'm just going to 5k the Flamingo blocker. I value the Flamingo blocker over the Teach. I'm going to go 5 at the Teach here. Will he let it go? Or will he take it? He actually defends the Teach, which I find pretty interesting over the blocker. I guess he just wants me to commit my Law, which I'm okay with doing. Go ahead and I find a Sunicune off of this Dodon. Still missing Nami, still missing Bonnie, but I found my Law, which is okay. I'm going to go ahead and play Otama. Shambles away the Otama for the Law restander. And then I'm deciding if I want to attach Dawn here. I'll go 6 at it. Yep, 6 feels fine. This is most certainly something that you probably let go at this point in time, because if you don't, I will just hit it with my Law character card. He goes 2k and Love Beam, so now he's at 3 cards in hand. And then I'm going to go 6 at it again, and he lets it go. So a very event-heavy version of Flamingo here. But I have acquired board control. They are at 4 life, and he has a very small hand size. I believe at this point in time, he's got 4 in hand, and while I've got 5 in hand. Not much more, but we have at least got the board, huh? We've got the tempo on our side, boys. So he goes ahead and plays another Flamingo blocker, which doesn't really dig him any deeper. I think it digs him 3 cards deeper into the deck than the other Flamingo blocker. But what a great card. What a card that has really shined in this format. So up to now, I don't think I've played terribly at all. I've actually been playing pretty good, but there is a moment in time, and you could probably see it in the cam over here, where a bunch of my friends start sitting around after they finish their games, and we just start trolling. We start talking, we start having fun, and I just lose focus like that. And that's the problem with Law. You lose focus, and you just, it's a bad time. So he's going to go ahead. I believe this is 8k towards my Zoro here. And yeah, this is a second Teach that I've been fighting through. Gosh darn diddly, if it ain't Teach, huh? So back to my turn. I have another Dodon, and this Dodon will probably find me a Nami, right? Nope, still no Nami. Oops, no Nami. And I think I did bottom deck a couple Bonnies there. So again, not looking good for the homeboys. So certainly my turn is going to start with me trying to clear this Teach. If he wants to defend it, he can. If not, that's also okay. I'm just going to go face after that. He's going to go ahead and play Desert Spada. He had 1 up. I did want him to like use the event in his hand. That's another 2k gone. That Dodon was just summoned, so I can't really attack with him. But I most certainly will try to attack with this Dodon. Does she get in? She does. Then I'll go 7 at lead. That probably fetches a point of damage. Now this Law can also go 7 at lead to fetch another point of damage, and he most certainly does. He blocks it with this one, and now that I know that he's going into the Mihawk turn, I don't want him to Mihawk my Law blocker, so I'm going to go ahead and shamble it away for another blocker, which looks really bizarre, but I'm very, very sure, just by the way he's been playing and so defensive, that he's going to Mihawk me this turn. Now I have 6 cards in hand, looking good now, but that immediately changes once he plays that Mihawk. So let's see how he plays this turn here. Now losing, see, as you can see, I'm already talking off camera, and this is where the trolling starts. This is where it starts, ladies and gentlemen. So these next couple of turns, avert your eyes from the screen. He goes ahead and swings 5 at lead. And I do believe or the Dodon? Yeah, sure, the Dodon. I'm not defending that card. And then before he's even summoned it, I've already bottom decked it. Gaming. And then he had the Perona follow-up, which is, again, very not good. That's a very solid swing turn here. And all the tempo that I had accumulated over a couple turns has been lost. But he is tapped out, so I do want to put a couple points of damage this turn. So Brook is a really good card at doing that. Brook going 5 at lead, he pitches a card. I go 5 at lead again. Again, I could have just attached more Dawn this turn, and then that could have fetched the points of damage that I needed, right? And that's something that I noticed during the course of this game that I did very, very poorly. I just wanted to remove cards from his hand when I could have just been dealing damage. So I will Nami here. Nami will find me a Chopper. And then I don't really know what to do with the rest of my Dawn. I've only invested 3 Dawn out of 10, so I have 7 Dawn available, and I'm like, bro, I really don't want to swing with this Chopper, but I might. And yeah, the Chopper swings for 5, and he gets in there. I'm gonna go ahead and use the Law's ability to shambles the Chopper, which will then bounce the Dawn or the Nami. I haven't decided what I want just yet. I'm gonna bounce the Brook actually, and then play a Chopper. Gonna add more blockers to the table. Not a terrible turn, but definitely could have allocated my Dawn more efficiently in order to force damage. As opposed to him only taking 1 point of damage that turn, he could have taken 2, putting him at 1 life, and then making it these next couple of turns a little bit more difficult for the Flamingo player. So he goes 7. This is the Perona stack the Jinbei, so ooey. Very, very scary. We've already seen 2 cards off the top of Perona. So if Perona stacks, you assume he has like a 1K or a Love Mellow or something along those lines in his hand. But I do got to start putting on this pressure. This Mihawk will start needing to get answered very, very soon. So let's see how he decides to go about the rest of the turn. Again, he doesn't have many cards in hand. I believe at this point in time he has 3 or 4 still. He's going to go ahead and attach 3 to Perona, which I'm just going to take a free block. And then he will try to Mihawk into the Law, but I have the blocker, which is fine by me. I will just choose to lose the Veggie again, keeping the red. At least I have good fundamentals, right? At least I've got good fundamentals. So I'll go ahead, draw a card here. And back to my turn. He's floating 4 Dawn here with 3 in hand. And I'm like, my goodness, how many more events am I going to have to push through? I still haven't found a Bonnie. I've been having to recycle this Law, and times are getting tough. I go ahead and I play Otama. Otama is targeting the Mihawk at this point in time, I believe. And then this is tough. It's just the Dawn being up is what scares me the most, because I know I won't be able to deal damage this turn. I gotta kind of ignore this Jinbei as well, which is not great. But we do what we gotta do. I still have 9 Dawn available. And this is another one of my very sloppy turns. I have like a generalized debuff. So Duval, so spoiler, at the end of the tournament, I ended up going 2nd place, only losing to Duval, who was playing Whitebeard, which I do believe is a pretty difficult matchup. And my draws weren't very, very equipped to beat him. But I think I just have a debuff versus that guy. He literally sat down and I immediately just started playing worse. I have 9 Dawn up and I just allow him to Love Beam me. When I could have attached 4, make him go Love Beam and a card, which would be a lot better for me in this current situation. And then force the attack on the Mihawk. But here we are. So again, still 9 Dawn available. And I'm like, my goodness, am I going to flow infinite Dawn here? Because all the cards in my hand are red weenies. So what really am I going to do? I decide to go 6 at lead. And I just do the most suboptimal Law turn that you've ever seen. Maybe not the most suboptimal, but we've at least remove 2 Love beams from his hand. So on the bright side, 2 beams are gone. I go ahead and I play a Sunny, trigger Law's effect to bounce the Law, to play the Law hard, to not play a card, hard play the Law to bounce the Nami, and then I'm going to go ahead and play another Chopper, saving Nami for later. And I'll keep one up again. Not a terrible reconciliation of my turn, but why is the Otama on the board? It could have been anything else. It could have been a Chopper, which then I could have then played the Nami again and searched another card. But so he swings in, I take, he summons another Jinbei, which is terrifying, right? That is another Jinbei that is aware because he drew a card, played a Jinbei, drew a card, played a Jinbei. So those 4 cards are all guaranteed. And it's it's getting very dangerous. Very, very dangerous for us. But we're still at 2 life. He's at 2 life. He has 3 Dawn up. Meaning that he has probably like a Love Beam and a Spada. Because if he didn't go ahead and attach 2 Dawn to the overheats here. So there you go. A 2 costed event plus a 1 cost event. Because if he didn't attach the Dawn to the Boa Hancock, you assume that's what he wants to do with it. So I decide, fine, you bounce my Sunny-kun, I'll go ahead and play Nami. Nami's looking for a card. Okay, I don't whiff at least, but I add the Zoro that isn't a card that I necessarily want, but I'll take. Go ahead and 7. And 7 just plays out of the range of the Desert Spada. He chooses to take this point of damage. If he didn't combo out of the first 7, he's not going to combo out of the second. So I go ahead and bounce the Brook to play the Zoro, and I'm like, my goodness, like, am I really, like, what am I doing? I'm just gonna sack this Otama, which again, this just felt terrible. It was just it was a big misplay, just summon the Otama. Then I'm gonna keep up 3 Dawn. Now my deck should never be floating 3, it should only float 2 at max, but here we are. We make mistakes. So it goes back to my opponent's turn. He's down to 1 life, and like I said, not looking great. My Law is suspended. There are 5 potential bodies that can attack the Law. Spooky stuff, guys. Spooky stuff. So I'm going to try to defend this Law as much as I physically can because the Law is my win condition. He's at 1 life. I've got the Zoro, and I just need to top deck some sort of damage. Law from the starter deck or Zoro from OP01. He goes 6 at 6, draws a card. I think at this point in time, he now goes to 4 cards in hand. Maybe even 5. And now he blind uses the Flamingo effect, and it is the Teach. So that blind Flamingo is humongous here. He's gonna go 7 at my 6, which I go ahead and I just pitch the Otama. Then he goes 7 at 6 again. I think I just pitch another 2k. Yeah, the Brook that I added back. He goes 7 again, and I'm like, my goodness, my hand is getting torn apart. He'd lose the Chopper here, but he's lost out of attackers. He's down to 2 Dawn left, 1 life, and a dream, boys. So I definitely think this is one of the, again, I'm able to scavenge, you know, just pick the game back up from the depths here, because I do have 10 Dawn. I think I top deck here the starter deck Law, and I'm like, okay, there has to be a lethal here. He has 4 cards in hand, 2 up. Even through a Love Beam, can I win the game? And I'm thinking to myself, he has 1 life. I've got 4 possible attacks, 5 possible attacks. So let's see what we can do. So remove a card. I swing 7. This is going to proc a Love Beam or an Overheat. He goes 2k, 1k. He's down now to 2 cards in hand. I'm going to go ahead and 7 again. He goes Desert Spada, which is excellent here, meaning that he has to use both cards in hand now to not take damage from this Law, which means he'll go to 0, and then that'll allow me to win the game. He goes ahead and plays the other spot. He's down to 0 cards, and that just lets me go 5k with the Nami. And here's the cheese. I resolved the Nami because that's what you're supposed to do, but it's irrelevant. I go ahead and play the Chopper. I could have played the Brook, which was probably honestly better, and then just go game there. The Brook would have let me swing for 9, which would have been a little bit better. But even then, with 1 card in hand, it was inevitable that he had lost that game. But a very hard win almost turned into an immediate loss just because of 3 or 4 turns of trolling. But we were able to get the dub in the very end. So we're back with the deck, and this is what I would say is my current list for Law. Now, I know, there aren't many changes, but let's just quickly go over the changes that I made and my explanations. First of all, we've dropped the 4-cost Zoro. Now, 4-cost Zoro, there was a bunch of things that just wasn't working in his favor. The structure deck Zoro just kind of fits his spot a little bit better for what he does. He is red, so he lets you go into green. He is a 6k on your opponent's turn. The only difference is that the green Zoro is a 1k counter. The starter deck is a 3 cost, which again, I think just makes it a little bit better because of the fact that you play cards like this Trafalgar Law. And since your 1/3/5 is so strong, it probably just means that if you want to play the 4-drop Zoro, you're better off playing the starter deck Zoro for the 3-drop. With that being said, I just don't want to play that card, and I just value the Rush Zoro just a teensy-weensy bit more. Obviously, maybe through further testing, I switched this card for the structure deck one. But honestly, I think it's a very interchangeable slot nonetheless. By removing 2 of that Zoro, it has given me the opportunity to up my X-Drake, and then this Law certainly has to be minimum 3, but probably 4. This card is exceptional. It is very, very strong. It is your finisher. It lets you restand dudes. It lets you swing early and then get cards off the board. It lets you shambles. It's another green card that you can summon, as well as he's a 6k base. So I want all my cards to be 6k base so that my Law, when I'm using his ability that costs 2, I really get just nice value out of it. The other change that I made is that I included the Film Gordon. Now the Sunny-kun, yeah, he was a really solid card, but even with the Sunny-kun being a really good card, the fact that it interacts so well with the Makino that lets you just hit the 6k threshold for 2 cost, it just didn't feel right. Oftentimes playing the Sunny wasn't my best plays, and even though he did contest board, I think this Gordon contests boards in a nicer and weirder way. I have played this Gordon in the past, and it has been awesome. The fact that this card can deal with cards like Bonnie, Namis, and things of those nature, and then after that I can go ahead and bottom deck it and do things with it, allows me to extend even further. Cards that usually are 6Ks and can't be targeted by Vista or Nico Robin now become within the realm of reach because of Gordon. Otama doesn't give you 3, it gives you just 2. But if you have a Gordon Otama, now we can basically KO anything in the game with the pistol. And oftentimes you can Otama and Gordon, and using Nico Robin, you can even knock out cards that are as high as, what, 8 costs? Really, really solid. And then by losing the Sunny, it dropped my Straw Hat count pretty significantly. I think I was at 18 at this point in time because by losing 2 of the Zoro for 2 more Supernovas, and then 2 Sunnies for 2 Gordons, I have made my Nami susceptible to whiffing. And that's not something that I personally enjoy because, again, in the intro of the video, my philosophy is that I do not want to whiff with this deck. By doing so, this spot right here where Nico Robin is sitting is the same spot that Vista would sit. The reason I chose Nico over Vista is, again, because I don't want to play my Nami and not net a card. But more often than not, if you're okay with whiffing or with the probability of Nami just having a lower chance of hitting the card that you need, Vista's genuinely more powerful than a Nico Robin in this deck. Although Nico Robin now being included in this deck makes it so that I now want to almost always go first because my 1/3/5 is just so strong. If I can go ahead and set up any sort of 1-drop into a Nico Robin, just puts a lot of deterring pressure onto my opponent that they don't want to just develop cards, because I can have a threat like Otama or Gordon lying in wait and clear their entire 4-cost play like that. But with that being said, I think this list is very, very solid. By no means do I think Law is the best deck, but it certainly is a tier 1 deck and a contender for one of the many best decks in the format. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed. Again, this is a rather long-winded version of my experiences with Law, but I do hope that some of it you were able to learn something from my games and my explanations as well. I do believe that the deck requires a lot of practice. So if you do start playing this deck and you don't have the success that you necessarily want with it, keep at it. It's a deck that definitely will reward you. And as the guy from Japan has showed, it's still viable even in set 3 Copium. So if you guys like this video, don't forget to hit the like button down below. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns that you would want to address in this video, leave it in the comment section. I do talk to a lot of big people, some gentlemen that have topped with Law. So if you have any questions you want to maybe aim towards them, leave a question in the comment section and I'll try my best to ask them what their thoughts are on. And as always, guys, if you're enjoying the content and haven't subscribed and are considering joining the pirate crew, it'd be pretty cool if you hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.